Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's Dave coming to you from the paddock here in Southern Maryland. It's about 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. This is our fireside chat. You know why? Because there's the fire. I had to come up with something creative because I showed you yesterday. There's no way that fire pit's come undone, melting out between now and when I leave for Wyoming. So being Sunday, we're only 5 days away from departure. We'll leave early Friday morning. And between now and Friday, it ain't melting out there. So we're hitting 39 degrees today, which is what we're at right now. It's the high of the day. Tomorrow, we're looking at maybe 40 or 45. That's the peak of the week. Then we head back down into a deep freeze. So we should get a nice melt, get that water everywhere, and then turn the entire Southern Maryland area into a deep freeze, a skating rink. So it's a little weird for me, probably a little weird for you to do a fireside chat sitting in the office here in the paddock. But I don't have a better idea. Maybe tomorrow I'll try a front porch fireside chat. Maybe in the peak of the day, like right around now, 2 o'clock tomorrow, it should be 45. Front porch should be in the sun. So maybe we'll try that. We'll see. That would actually allow me to smoke a cigar with you guys. Anyway, that's the one shot I see it doing a proper like porch side chat, but we'll see how this goes. But today it's fireside chat here in the office. See, I'll take my mic off here. Actually, this video is pretty cool. It's got a crackling to it. So I just thought it'd be a kind of a cool way to try this. Smoking the Maryland Meerschaum Church Warden as always. You're only going to see it for a few more days. Some people are asking about, they're like, hey, is this coloring the way it's supposed to? And they were showing their Meerschaums. And I think, yeah, it colors most where the heat is. So you're going to see a lot of coloration down here. And then this is a pretty thick bowl, so it's going to take quite a bit. You can see it's colored up nicely along the back. It's colored up along the rim. It's coloring along the edges. And this was snow white, so it's coloring quite well. But yeah, I would say if you're new to Meerschaum coloring, this is pretty standard coloring. And I use this thing a lot. Now it's a big, giant bowl. It's very thick, heavy Meerschaum. It's a high quality Meerschaum pipe. So I believe these color slower than the cheaper, lighter, more porous versions. So anyway, this tiny little lesson in Meerschaum coloring. And then this is for me. I burn it a lot. Let's just light this thing where you can see. See, I do this a lot, and it does cause some discoloration on the rim. Now, a lot of that cleans off, but not all of it. That'll be a permanent burn mark, but I don't care. I don't care about the value of my pipes. I'm never going to be a reseller of pipes. I'm certainly not my everydays, that's for sure. So, it's something to be careful of if you care about trying to get rid of your pipes or keeping them looking super pretty. You can see the permanent marks right down in there. Yeah, look at that. Didn't you know I was going to do a Meerschaum lesson today? Got my clicker in my hand as always. As I turn you on and off as I put my pieces together. So I'm all ready for the Cottage book club. All the books are in. I'm going to turn the camera on and show it to you real quick. They're physically all here for the entire book club, which is I think the first 6 months of the year. Some of them were harder to get than others, so I wanted to get them all in here. And some of them took longer to ship than I expected. So I'm glad they all got here before Friday because, in fact, the book that was hardest to find and took the longest to get here, of course, was the first book. But it's here. I'm going to have to take probably 3 or 4 with me to Wyoming to keep up with the book club because I'll be gone at least 6, if not 8 weeks. Anyway, let me turn around and show you the books and then we'll go on. So there's the book list. And then here are all the actual books in order that we're going to be reading. The last one's down here is a threesome. The only book we're going to read as part of the club is the first one, the Killer Angels. So it's the last one. I guess that is the first one. So the other two, though, it was just as cheap to buy the trilogy as it was to buy the one book. So I bought the trilogy. So anyway, we'll be reading The American Cause, Pursuit of Happiness, The Southern Tradition at Bay, Born in the Country, A Disquisition on Government, A World on Fire, and The Killer Angels. So that's the book club for the first 6 months of 2024. And let me correct myself right away and say 2025. It's going to take me a while. You think you do it. So, I don't know, us old timers used to write checks. That was always the first implication of the year change for me, was dating the check correctly. I don't write too many checks anymore, but anyway, 2025, the first book club for the first 6 months of 2025. As always, drinking my black cowboy coffee while we're having our chat. It's truly one of the simple pleasures in life, a great cup of black coffee. So the response to my celery explanation was unbelievable. The number of comments I got on that video is crazy. I was just trying to answer the question. Somebody said, why would you do that? You know, what was your thought process going through it? So I really wasn't trying to justify it, just trying to answer the question. But my God, the number of people that responded, I think it might have more comments than any of my other videos. Pretty crazy. And then your response to my train trip to see Potter Piper, I'm surprised how many people liked it and how many people commented on it. So this is a fireside chat. I just thought I'd chat about that. So it was a great trip. I mean, I love Potter Piper. He's one of my best friends now. I mean, we've been friends now for over a year, and we met each other at Boswell's. He came out to the Wyoming home for 9 or 10 days. We've done the train trip. Yeah, it's been a great relationship, and I truly enjoy it. And we have real conversations, and God, I really do enjoy that. I don't get that at home like I do in Wyoming. Some of the guys and I have real conversation, and then when I see Potter Piper, we have real conversations. So I truly enjoy that. If you've ever considered taking a train trip and you haven't done it, I got to tell you to do it. Especially if you're anywhere near what they call the Northeast Corridor. That Boston to DC route is by far Amtrak's best maintained, most profitable. That's where they put all their attention. It's so much easier than a plane. There's really no security. You just walk onto the train and sit down. Very little baggage restrictions, and then you just sit there. You sit there, and the train does all the work for you. You just kind of watch the world go by. It's a much different experience. It's a much more physical, visceral experience to see the United States from a train than an airplane. But it's great. I can't recommend it high enough. And then Acella's fastest train is the Acela. Usually they're the express, so they make, instead of 14 stops, it makes 3. It's a great experience. So if you're thinking about it, I can't recommend it high enough. So with that beginner investment strategy I put together for my son, I'm surprised too how many people have asked for it. So I think I've sent it out to everybody who's asked for it. If you feel like you asked for it and I have not replied to it, you just redo it. Send me the text, send me an email. Because at least on my end, I think I responded to everybody. The response to that video was pretty good too, and so many people came back and said, well, I prefer the VOOs over the SPYs, or I would never invest in precious metal without taking possession of the metal, and I wouldn't use vaulting or storage. And I mean, that was kind of the point I was trying to make on the video, was for every single step or idea I provided in the paper, there's 20 to 100 different ways to do everything. So, but I appreciate the discussion that started was real. I think it's helping some people out. I encourage you to ask questions. If you're one of the people who wanted this strategy and you have it, and you have questions now that you have it, please reach out. That's all I'm trying to do, is help people if I could help anybody, cross over to being financially independent or self-sufficient or rich or wealthy or whatever word you want to use, that's the whole reason I do stuff like this. So anyway, I'm touched by how many people have reacted to that video and how many people have asked for the strategy. What's really weird, a weird confluence of events, is the guy who owns the business two warehouses over, he's become a friend, and he texted me one day and said, Dave, I'm really struggling getting started in investing. I was wondering if I could come by and see you. And he hadn't seen my video. And I just thought it was weird. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I just sent out this beginner strategy. So I sent it over to him. Then he came over and we spent 2 hours sitting here kind of going through it and showing him. He said, I'm a visual learner more than a reader. Can we just sit down and do some things together? So just thought it was crazy that it happened within 24, 48 hours of me finishing that paper. A couple of comments that came through on the investment strategy, I think bear more discussion, and that is, if you're going to own precious metals, the saying in the investor world is, if you don't hold the metal, you don't own the metal. I'm a believer in that sentence. I believe that if we buy precious metals, we should take possession of the metal. It's also true of crypto. If you don't hold the keys, you don't own the crypto. By and large, I'm a fan of that too. That's why I store my crypto on the cold wallet, the Trezor, because then I hold the keys. I don't expect the exchange to hold them for me. And a lot of people said, well, you can buy the Bitcoin ETF or you can buy the Ethereum ETF, and I think in a couple months you'll be able to buy XRP ETFs, exchange traded funds at your brokerage, but then you don't own them. And my worry is that the big brokerage houses will sell shares on crypto they don't own, or they'll own a million Bitcoin but sell 100 million worth of shares. So if things ever got into a crunch, you don't own it. You have an IOU from your brokerage house, which is true, by the way, no matter what you buy. If you buy a stock, you don't really own it. The brokerage houses basically keep a spreadsheet of who's promised what, but you don't own the shares. So that's another thing I don't particularly like. Not much you can do about it. In today's world, it's kind of hard to buy a share and have the stock certificate sent to you. I don't even know if that's possible in today's world. But anyway, I just thought that was a good comment. If you're buying precious metals, you don't own it unless you take possession of it. And then there's storage fees and vaulting fees that the house you buy at will charge you for it. So it reduces your yield or your return on the investment. But some people aren't comfortable with that. So that's why especially at the beginner level, you may not be comfortable housing all your precious metals. And if you go into your local pawn shop or metal exchange and buying an ounce here, an ounce there, it's not that big a risk. But my advice to you was, if you do that, the first thing you should do is buy a safe that is extremely high in its fire rating. So something else that somebody brought up was was about property protection, because I have the home in Wyoming, I have the paddock here, I take possession of my precious metals, and what are my practices on physical protection of property? So that we talk about that for a minute. So as in many subjects, the subject of personal property protection requires a layered approach to done it right, in my opinion. And the first one is the physical property built correctly? Is it sturdy? Is it intruder avoiding, just in the way it's built? Are the doors high quality? Are the windows high quality? Is the space built to repel boarders? Is it constructed in a manner where it provides its own safety at the first level? So whether it's your home, your vacation home, your second home, rental property, your car warehouse. I mean, I don't even know what kind of properties you guys are asking about, but that's the first layer. Is the property itself constructed in a manner that it can be made secure? So that's level one. So the second part is the operation of it, right? Is we're to talk about your operation of your home or of your garage or of your warehouse, of your work location, whatever you're talking about when you're asking me about personal property protection. But is your personal behavior that of your spouse, yourself, your children, your family, your visitors, your cleaners, whatever, people that have access to your space? Are the operations set up so that it can be a secure location? And what I mean is, I personally believe doors are made to be closed. Closed doors are made to be locked. Windows are meant to be closed. Closed windows are meant to be locked. And if we were to walk around your house today, are all your doors and windows closed? Are they all locked? Do they stay that way? Or do you forget and leave the door unlocked? Or did you forget there's a window open? Or did someone close a window and not remember to lock it? And that's a pain in the ass to walk around your house occasionally and make sure everything's the way you thought it should be, particularly when you're going to go to sleep or when you're going to leave. Are you leaving the building in its most secure stance or setup? And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people, leave their cars unlocked and the garage door opener's in the car, right? I mean, come on, that's stupid. Or they forgot they had a window open and they drive away and leave a window open. Well, it's game over at that point. It doesn't matter what you have in place. If you're leaving windows open or doors unlocked or windows unlocked, there's not much you can do until you fix that. So if the property is constructed right and you're operating it correctly, you're kind of ready for the third level. The third level is, can you harden the facility? That's another weird thought when you're talking about your home or your vacation home or your garage. But so, like, my armories are hardened inside my properties. They have individual locking doors. They're steel core doors. They have the best locks made on them. There's more than one. They're secured in hardened walls. These are cinder block walls. I have iron gates in front of them. The iron gates are locked 3-4 different ways. So if I'm leaving one of my homes, I'm leaving it fully secured, and the valuables and the weaponry stored away be very hard. You can never say impossible, but it'd be very hard to break in to one of my facilities, even if you're an access granted person. So my house sitter in Wyoming has no access to my vaults. My house cleaner here in Maryland has no access to my hardened rooms. In fact, my family really doesn't either. I mean, I could tell them how to do it, but they probably couldn't do it on their own. And so do you have a special place in your house that you can harden for the storage of your precious metals, your ammo, your weaponry? The second thing is, you have big sliding glass doors. Even when locked, those things represent a huge risk, especially your basement, especially like a lot of basements, the back wall is the wall that the property slides away from the front of the house, so You have a walkout basement, and that walkout basement has a big sliding glass door on it. Man, that is the number one way to get into a home. Because if you're not home, that can be broken so easily where your neighbors or anyone around you can't see it. So you need to harden that. Put a gate in front of it, an iron door in front of it. Just some way to protect it. So if someone were to break the glass, the first thing they hit is, a safety grid, a safety door, something like that. So that's kind of the third level, though. So your property's done right, your operating around it's done right, and now you're hardening places that you want to that are either easy to access or are containing some of your more precious stuff. I'll tell you another way people just screw themselves is the hider key. You put it, it looks like a rock, but it's got a pouch, and you put the key to your home in this rock, and you hide the rock in your garden. Guess what's the first place true professionals look? They look for the rocks. They look for someone that doesn't look out of place. They look in your flower pot. I mean, we still have people put the front door key in the flower pot on their front porch. I mean, why don't you just take your front door off? So just, are we doing anything like that? So you got to think about it. That's probably level 2. That's part of your operations. So anyway, we've talked enough about the facility stuff. Let's move on. So let's talk about alarm systems, electronic surveillance. There's a lot of do-it-yourselves. I don't use those primarily. I'll talk about it in a minute, but I've chosen at all my facilities, my farm, my home, here at the paddock, my Wyoming house, everything's electronically protected and monitored by a professional alarm company. It may be cheaper than you think. It could be $100 or $200 a quarter for full-time 24/7 monitoring. And you can protect different or all access points. So there's things like every door has a door opening alarm. Every window has a window opening alarm. You can have sound protection so that if someone were to break glass, they can hear it. If the intruder is trying to do something as loud, trying to pry a door open or break through a wall or whatever, it trips the audio alarm. And then we have you have faux motion cameras, and they should be interlocking. There should be no dead spots, And so you have cameras, you have listening devices, you have door and window opening alarms. So you can get like 2, 3 layers, 4 layers of protection by these professional companies. ADT is one of the biggest ones. ADP is a payroll company, sorry. So ADT, but there are others. There's lots of them. I don't particularly like ADT, but they protected here for a while, but I've moved on to another company. And then you have to be careful about like video that is taken by these cameras. Where is it stored? And hopefully it's not true anymore, but a lot of companies sell you a server and it gets stored in here, and all the video gets stored on that device. Well, that's the first thing a professional who breaks in knows what to do is go take that server, because they're small and light, and they cart all your criminal video away with them, and it's as if you didn't have it. So you want that to be stored in the cloud, and you want it to be transferred real time. So every time your cameras take images or videos, it's transferred to the cloud immediately. That way they can never steal your ability to help law enforcement catch them should they do something. So no system is foolproof, but if you have these like 4 or 5 layers, the facility's ready to be protected. It's built right. You have the right doors and windows. You operate appropriately. And some people say you're being paranoid, right? And I know my family thinks I'm a little too into it, but I just lived in that world for so long, I don't care what they think of me. We maintain locked doors, locked windows, locked cars. We have hardened all our facilities to keep our precious metals and our ammo and our weaponry in very hardened facilities inside the appropriately built and operated house or facility. And then everything's monitored by professional alarm companies or security companies. We employ every level offered. I mean, audio, breakage, video, photos, exterior, internal, door being pried open, window being pried open. We have all of that, and it's all transmitted real time to the cloud from all our facilities. So, and then the last step is I do like Ring is a big company. People buy Ring for security, Ring doorbells, Ring cameras. We have Ring cameras as well, but I just use those because I want to look at things occasionally. I want to check something out. I don't really rely on that as my security system. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I don't. I only use them for my wife to see things or for me to look at things. And that's across all our facilities. We don't rely on any personally installed system to be the actual security system. And I've already advised you to buy safe. So if you can do precious metals or if you can store weapons or ammo, I mean, not so much ammo. If you're a hoarder of ammo, it's going to be hard to do it. You can buy a giant, like Liberty Safe, I think is a great product. I know I catch a lot of shit for that because of the one guy that the FBI was able to get their combination when they were trying to break into their house. But there's mitigating factors to that. One is the guy selected, I want Liberty to store my combos for me, and then the FBI showed up with a court order. So there's a lot more behind that story. Liberty does not just give out combinations. So I think they took a hit on something they really shouldn't have. So I think they make a great product. You can buy a giant one, but then you have to have it placed. It's probably going to weigh 1,000 pounds. You have to be careful where you put it. But get a safe, right? That's like the first level. And if you're going to buy a small one, bolt it. Have it bolted or bolt it to your floor. So if you do all this, I believe you're probably protected from 99% or more, 99.9, how many nines, right, of the people who want to break in and steal something. Because you don't need to be impregnable, right? You need to be harder than the house next to you or harder than the rest of your neighborhood. And signs on your windows, signs in your yard, showing the protection that you have. So, if you have ADT, they give you signs, put them out. Because if somebody's driving down the road and they see one house with that and one house without, they're probably just going to take the easier route. So there's just lots of layers to protection of personal property. I hope I answered your question. I can't tell. Maybe I just talked long enough you even forgot the question now. But if you have questions based on all this, these layers, let me know. Put a question in there or send me a question directly. So the second question people have asked me, how do I own all the weaponry I own here in Maryland, not the Wyoming house? Here in Maryland, if you look at my Freedom Friday playlist, you'll see I show a lot of my weaponry. And people say, how the hell can you own all that in the People's Republic of Maryland? And it turns out they make it hard, but you can own a lot of things legally and fully documented and with the knowledge and approval of the state of Maryland. So I just want to walk you through the process of one of the more restrictive states in the United States. So the first thing you have to do in the state of Maryland, before you can do anything, you have to get a handgun qualification license, an HQL. And to get that, you have to go to a 2-day training course that's taught by somebody that is on the Maryland approved training list. And then when you go to their course and you pass their course, they have to tell the state of Maryland that you've passed. And that's the hardest thing about getting an HQL. An HQL in the state of Maryland. You just have to do it. You can bitch about it, you can complain about it, but you have to go to a certified trainer, take the 2-day course, attend the 2-day course, demonstrate proficiency, book learning, and with a weapon. Then they pass you. They put you in the database as someone who's passed it. Then you can do the rest of the HQL application, which is essentially all getting ready for them to do a background check on you. And that's really it. Once you have your HQL, if you intend to purchase several weapons, you really need to become an approved hand weapons collector. That's another form. It's another application. I did it several years ago, and that allows you buy, really buy as many weapons as you want at any pace you want. If you don't have an approved collector license, I think you're restricted to 1 weapon a month or something like that. So, which is really not that big a deal. It can frustrate us, but there you go. So there you go. That's, you got to get an HQL. You got to get trained. You need a collector's license if you're going to buy several weapons at a rapid pace. The next step is a handgun permit, which is what most people call a concealed carry. Maryland is currently, as all states are, a shall state. They shall issue you a carry permit, a concealed carry permit. It's just you just have to fill out the form, and it takes, in Maryland, they have 90 days, which usually means on the 90th day, they authorize you. Your first carry permit is good for 2 years, and then you have to re-up, and then you get a 5-year after that. So that's just how you do it. It's just a bunch of paperwork, a bunch of processes. You do it all through the Maryland State Police website. There's no exceptions. There's no way around it. You just have to follow the procedures. So when you purchase a weapon, each and every weapons purchase has to be approved specifically by the Maryland State Police. So you have to apply for the purchase of the weapon. You have to list the weapon type. You have to list the FFL you're purchasing it from. It has to all be done. It takes about 2 weeks, and then you get the famous letter from them that says you are not disapproved. How crazy is that? They will not send you anything that says you are approved. They'll simply say you have not been disapproved for the purchase of this weapon. But you must select a weapon from the approved weapons list, which is maintained by the Maryland State Police. I mean, I think that part's nuts because it only contains about 10% of the available firearms in the United States, but you must pick a weapon from the approved list. And that's readily available online at the Maryland State Police, or your FFL has to know that as well. So there are some crazy things, like I own that BMG 50 cal. It's a single shot, and it turns out Maryland State passed a law years ago that said any single shot weapon is approved automatically. I don't think they thought about like a 50 BMG, but that's how I own it. It was automatically approved. I got my approval letter, purchased it through my FFL, and then it's in my arsenal now. So there's lots of ways, there's lots of things you can do even in the state of Maryland. You just have to follow their forms and their procedures. So the last thing to talk about is machine guns. So I've shown it on my video here a few times. I have an entire video about it. I own the M60, which is a 7.62 by 51 fully automatic machine gun. I own it completely legally. Maryland, in addition to all that crap I just told you about, has a Maryland machine gun registry, and each and every machine gun in the state of Maryland must be on that registry. And that registry entry for yours has to be updated or renewed every single year. It's $10. It's another form that you do. It's all online with Maryland State Police. But that's the last step. So if it's on the approved list and you purchase it, you have to purchase it through a Class 3 FFL, by the way, which is totally different. There's only like 2 in the state of Maryland. And then you wait for the ATF approval, which took me like 18 months. And then once you receive the weapon, you have to register it within 40 hours or 48 hours on the Maryland Machine Gun Registry. The initial entry is $30 or $40, and then every year I got to pay them $10, and I have to renew that entry. But you can do it. I mean, it's all a pain in the ass, and they make it a pain in the ass as part of their way to be like, well, we don't prohibit it, but they make it prohibitive based on the number of steps and hoops and loops, renewals, and they never tell you when your concealed carry is due to expire. They never tell you when your machine gun registry. They just let it expire, and now you're out of, if it's too expired for too long, you have trouble getting it renewed. I think that's all done on purpose. But you can do it. You just have to be organized. You have to put calendar, entries in your calendar, reminders in your calendar. You just have to stay on top of your shit. So anyway, that is that whole process from HQL to training to handgun permit to approved weapons list to your FFL, to getting each weapon approved to the machine gun registry. It's all out there. It's all on the Maryland State Police website, and that is how I own all these weapons. I follow all the procedures, all the forms, all the renewals, all the payments. It's a pain, but it's possible. I just have the personality. I'd rather do it than be told no. All right, we've talked about property protection. We've talked about how to own weapons in such a restrictive state like Maryland. It's also true in New York. It's also true in Massachusetts. It's true in California. It's possible to do the same in those states. In fact, I have friends in California that have concealed carry permits and kind of the same arsenal as I do. It's possible. You just have to follow it. Anyway, the third topic, somebody asked me, I'm getting an MBA. What do you think of MBAs and advanced degrees and things like that? So that's the third and probably last thing we want to cover on today's fireside chat. So in talking about degrees and advanced degrees and certificates, things like that, I almost always tell you, I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I chose to do. So I have a BS degree, a Bachelor of Science degree in computer engineering. I graduated with it in 1986. And there ended my career, for formal education. I have no other certificates. I have no other advanced degrees. I have nothing other than a bachelor's degree from 30 some years ago. So that kind of gives you the basis for my answer. You can probably tell what the rest of my answer is going to be by what I've done. So when I started my company, no one asked me what degree I had. No one asked me what advanced degrees I had, what were my credentials. I was just able to start my company. But I lived in the government contracting world, and a lot of their position descriptions, for me to propose someone into a position to be paid for them, they had to have certain criteria, and lots of times there were degrees, advanced degrees, certificates required for me to propose that person. So I came from a world where it mattered. Owning the company, the CEO, the ownership, the executive leadership required none of that, but my billable positions, my billable slots did. So it mattered to the guys who wanted to work for me in these certain positions. They had the right degree, the right advanced degree, the right number of years of service or experience. So it does matter. For me, it didn't, and I stopped once I had my degree. That took me as far as I needed to go with my formal education. So my thought on degrees, advanced degrees, whether it be MBAs or masters or PhDs or advanced certificates, is there a specific reason, a specific requirement for why you want to go after it? To any of those things. Like if you're going to be, if you desire to become a lawyer, there are just requirements. You don't get any opinion. It doesn't matter. You get your 4-year degree, you go to law school, and you get your PhD there, and then you pass the bar, and then you can be a lawyer. That's it. So if you're on that kind of track, if you want to become a medical doctor, our opinions don't matter. You go to school, you get your pre-med, you go to med school, you graduate from med school, you do your internships. I mean, you follow the path. That doesn't matter. So if you want to do something in life that requires these kind of things, then you got to do it. If you're in the military, I don't even think you'd be promoted to major without a master's degree, and I don't think you'd make colonel or 06 without a PhD today. So again, my opinion, our opinion, your opinion doesn't matter. You want to be a lawyer, you want to be a medical doctor, you want to advance into the higher ranks of the military, you've got to do it. And there's many other examples of career fields that require a degree or a certificate that requires a degree to get the certificate before you can even apply for jobs. I think like physical therapist, just anything along those lines. Even lots of things in law enforcement require it. So your opinion doesn't matter. You just have to go after it. However, having said all that about the jobs and career fields that require it, I want to talk about if you're just generally thinking about, maybe I should go get a degree. Maybe I should get a master's. Maybe I'll get my MBA. If it's just a general interest, you just need to ask yourself, is it worth the time or the money to go do it? Because there's an opportunity cost. Like to go after an MBA, that's a lot of time. The executive courses are 18 months of every weekend. But typically it's a 2, 3, 4 year long process to get your MBA while working. Would that be better time, better spent getting to know your career better, to doing a better job, putting more time into the job, more time into getting to know those above you, to getting to know your client, to become better? Because the piece of paper alone, unless you're being told specifically, hey, if you got your MBA, you'd be a much stronger candidate for this level of position or the promotion or whatever. If you're not being told that, if it's just you thinking, I kind of like to get it, I wouldn't. Not unless I have a very specific benefit that comes once I receive it. I would not spend the time. I would spend the time starting a side business or getting better at my current career or starting another venture or some other way. This is dangerous advice, but I would not go after a degree, an advanced degree, a PhD, a master's, an MBA, unless I had a very specific goal, objective, or reason to do it. How about that? That's nice and succinct. Now, hear both sides of that. I wouldn't do it unless, all right? So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying don't do it unless you have a very specific goal or reason, purpose that requires it, and then I would definitely go do it. I'm very much for checking boxes that have to be checked. I'm very strongly opinionated that we have to know when our opinion matters and when our opinion does not matter. And if you need the advanced degree or certificate to move forward in your career field or in your company or to increase your pay, I would definitely do it. But if it's not, I would not take the time. I would spend the time and the money getting better at what I am or what I do or starting my own company, which is exactly what I did. I graduated in '86 with a degree. It took 8 years to get to know my career field, and I started my own company in '94. And I never looked back. 25, 26 years of running the company with absolutely no advanced degree. So my success path lay in spending my time and money becoming a better CEO than going out and getting an advanced degree. Hope that helps. Hope that answers your question. If it generates more questions, throw them at me. If you disagree with me, throw it at me. This is just one man's opinion, one man's career path, and how I live my life. So I'm trying to give you a real answer, but I want to be careful because I'm giving you a dangerous opinion. This thing's over 40 minutes long. I paused. I probably shouldn't have tried to do all 3 sets of questions in one video, but I did. So you'll pay the penalty. Sorry. If you've gotten here, what an amazing marathon you've run with me today. So as you can see, the fire's burning down. And so we're going to say goodbye for the day. I'm going to send you out with a little video of Sasha and Ranger playing here in the paddock. That's it. We'll say goodbye. Have a great day. Hope you had a good weekend, and we'll talk tomorrow again on Monday. Goodbye, everybody. There's a little video of the 2 Germans playing. You can see that Sasha's basically the same size as Ranger now. There's Sasha for you, and then right next to her, there's Ranger. You can tell that pretty much, without making them stand up, you can tell they're the same size now. She's literally probably the same weight.